I wrote Mr. Frank Buckles a letter in 2010. I just saw a story about him, and he was 109 years old at the time. And it was obviously his age, but it was one of the most, it just caught my eye that he was the last known American World War I soldier, which I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. The last one, the last documented person that was a American soldier during that conflict. And for those that's not history nerds, that conflict was over in 1918. Mr. Frank Buckles was born in 1901, and at the time, he enlisted when he was 16 years old and was overseas during that time. But just an amazing, he had an amazing story. I'm not going to bog this podcast down with just events of his story, but even at 110 or 109, he was still working, trying to get a true World War I monument there in D.C. The story just fascinated me. I just love that era. I love the people from that era, and there was a link in the story that you could write him a letter. And I wrote him a letter, and I was so hoping to get that back, and I never did. He passed away in 2011 at the ripe young age of 110 years old. And never got the letter back. Wish I would have, but just an amazing life, amazing story. And out of 4 million people, 4 million service members that from the United States that served during the First World War, he was the very last one to survive. And he held that title for about 3.5 years. And time, being last isn't always a bad thing. In this case, what a life, what a story he could tell, and the legacy he left. But being last has always been something that we've looked down on in life. Well, I was picked last, or I didn't get picked, or I come in last place, or I didn't get the job. Mine was last. I was the last to come in. Whatever it was, being last has always been a negative thing. But in this case, he won. He won. Being last, he won, and that's with anything really. If you turn it around, time in this case with Mr. Frank Buckles was his friend. And time, it can be a friend to all of us. If we're friendly with time, time will be friendly to us. And I tell people all the time that the greatest asset you have is time. And if you're good to it, it'll be good back to you. And you don't have to be first in everything. You don't have to be first. You don't have to kick and claw and scream and holler and drag yourself to the front. Time will be your friend. And in this case, Mr. Frank Buckles will always go down as the last American soldier, service member from that war. And he got to touch the generation today. Like I said, he passed away in 2011. But what a story. And I've seen people work jobs that they seem like they're last, and at the end, they win in the end. I've seen people in relationships think that it's just terrible and not last, but they let time be their friend, and they win in the end. And I like to see people in the church that they think they're last, but if they just let friendly with time, and time becomes their friend, and in the end, they win. And Frank Buckles had a 4,000,000-1 odd, and he won that. 4 million estimated service members to 1, and he outlived them all. And you know what? You can do that with your situation. You can. Time is on our side, and time is our friend. Yeah, Frank Buckles. Wow, what a story about him that was brought to my mind today. Y'all have a great day.